Number one, you create the internet, but you've got to pull the population in so you don't censor. You don't censor. You just have the free flow of information. You don't like it, but it's necessary. But what you're waiting for is that point, we're now past it, where the internet dominates communication and has so infiltrated human society technologically via everything being connected to the internet that there's no turning back. Gotcha. Okay, now we'll start.
We are being deceived by numerous entities, our governments, big tech companies, intelligence agencies, the media, social media platforms, and every other information source we once trusted. This is the latest warning from David Icke, a prominent speaker and self-published writer who works tirelessly to uncover the evil machinations of global elites, the latest of which Icke says is to use the internet to control the global populace. In a recent discussion with Strike It Big podcast, Icke unravels the layers of falsehoods and how those at the helm of global affairs use social media as a tool of subjugation, misinformation, and censorship. Icke reveals a grand scheme to gain absolute control over every aspect of our lives through the internet. He explains that the first phase of this scheme, which aimed to make us heavily dependent on the internet, has already been successful with a significant portion of the global population. The next phase involves using artificial intelligence to control the internet. The former BBC sports broadcaster warns that by 2025, artificial intelligence will generate more than 90% of online content, shaping reality for the global population as it sees fit. Icke warns that social media platforms shroud undue censorship under the guise of maintaining order or protecting certain groups and belief systems. But the real reason is power and control. They want to control everything we see and read, so we don't have any original thoughts and will become unable to question the mainstream narrative. The result is that we all become zombies, open to all commands and suggestions from this global cult. They ask us to jump. We simply ask how far. They ask us to give up all our values. We do without hesitation. Until one day, we own nothing, and they own everything. During the podcast, Icke expresses how urgent this has all become, stressing that we must not be complicit in our own enslavement. We will present clips from the discussion, in which Icke discusses the importance of freedom of speech, how it's been stolen from us through censorship, and how those who seek to control and subjugate us are feeding on our fears. As we present the clips, please take a little time to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and activate the notifications bell for more related content. Thank you, and enjoy the video.
The principle is freedom of speech. If everyone doesn't have freedom to speak, then there's no freedom of speech. All that's left is what is acceptable to speak. And that acceptability is being squeezed and squeezed and squeezed and squeezed. So things that were perfectly okay to say not that long ago will now get you banned or demonized or whatever. What it comes down to is this. What I've been saying now for 34 years is that a network of secret societies, fiercely compartmentalized, so most of the people in the secret societies don't know the big story, have been pushing the world towards a global dystopia. And of course, for a long time, it didn't seem that that was the case because people were getting on with their lives and they were posting on the social media and it was all right. It started to dawn on people that a global dystopia, not least a digital concentration camp, thus the end of cash, which I predicted in 1992, by the way, in a book, is unfolding before our eyes. 15-minute cities, all the rest of it. The war on the motorist, the war on movement. So then you look at that and you think, and lots of people have said this to me, a few people can't control the world. It's not possible. Well, you know the sad thing, it's a doddle. It's a doddle because of two reasons. The second one I'll come to. But the first one is relevant to your question. Freedom of speech. What is that? Freedom of opinion, freedom of information. And how do we form our perceptions? From information we receive. It might be a Facebook post. It might be the 10 o'clock news, whatever. It might be someone you meet. But we form our perceptions from information received. Now, from perception comes behavior. We behave as we do because we perceive as we do, and we perceive as we do because of the information we receive. So if you want to control people's behavior, you have to control their perception. And you do that by increasingly, through this hysterical level of extreme censorship now, you hijack the sources of information that people are hearing, so they only hear your narrative. People only hear one story, they're almost certainly going to believe it in the absence of anything to challenge it. So the reason we don't have free debate is because the official narratives do not stand up to scrutiny, even the mildest scrutiny. And thus, if you had an open debate, then the official narrative will be all over the floor. So what do? If you control the global media, if you control Silicon Valley, indeed you created it, you make sure you don't have that debate. And you do that by censorship. And I would make this point too, that censorship is not an expression of power. People with real power, people with self-security, they don't want to censor anybody. People who are confident that what they say will stand up to scrutiny don't want to censor anybody. They also realize that people having different opinions to you is the very foundation of human freedom. And once that's gone, it's over. There is no freedom. If you have a narrative you know won't stand up to scrutiny, if there is a perception you want to impose upon the people through suppression of the absence of any alternative, then open debate and the free flow of information terrifies you. So what we're looking at with this censorship through Silicon Valley, the media, and anything else that moves is not an expression of power. It's an expression of weakness. It's saying to you, we know that our narrative won't stand up, so we're not going to let it be challenged. But
Icke believes a huge connection exists between our governments, the global cult, and Silicon Valley executives. That's why, though they try to seem different and independent of one another, they always manage to work together to achieve certain goals, particularly those geared toward the end game. According to Icke, they are one and the same, with the same goal of bringing about a new world order for us all. During the podcast, he further warns that there is more to the internet than many people realize. Icke believes it was deliberately created to draw people in, give them a false sense of safety, and then reel it all in to bring us these heavily censored versions we now have to live with. The only issue is we are way too dependent on these platforms now. Let's get back to the video.
if you look at the social media, first of all, the censorship means that people can basically only go so far, but it is a vehicle for division. I mean, it's a vehicle for abuse. It's a vehicle for ridicule, and it's not a vehicle for coming together. And therefore, it's playing into the hands of this cult, because if you are a few and you want to control the many, you have to divide and rule the many. You know, you can't control 8 billion people when you're a relative handful by comparison, unless the 8 billion play a central role in their own control. And people say that the word yes is positive and the word no is negative. Not true. We've got into this mess. We've got into this unfolding dystopia by continually saying yes. Yes, sir. No, sir. Okay, sir. Anything you say, sir. Or, well, I don't want to do it, sir, but I'm frightened of the consequences of not doing it, so I'm going to do it as well, just like them. But just don't question anything. That's how we got into this mess. And it's no that's going to get us out of it. No, I'm not doing that. No, I'm not cooperating with my own enslavement. That's the way we're going to get out of it. And what happens with social media is it's basically a brawl. It's just a verbal keyboard brawl that goes on. But through that, for intelligent people who are discerning, you can get nuggets of truth and information out that circulates. And so let's look at the internet. It's an interesting point, because the internet now and social media now is not how it started out. I remember when it started, before it started, even if I was doing an event or I was trying to get information out, you stood in the street and you handed leaflets out. And then suddenly this internet came along, and we had the free flow of information for a while. And for people like me, it was fantastic. But, you put a fishing line out, and then when you catch the fish, you pull the fishing line in. Gotcha. And this is what the internet really is, I would suggest. First of all, DARPA, the technological development arm of the Pentagon, claims credit openly for the creation of the internet. And its military technology is based on, right? So this was the thing. Number one, you create the internet, but you've got to pull the population in, so you don't censor. You don't censor. You just have the free flow of information. You don't like it, but it's necessary. And as that unfolds, more and more people come onto the internet. Oh, yeah, it's cool. God, this is good. You can say what you like. And you pay, oh, yeah, it's really great. And as more people use that as a form of communication, so the other forms of communication, the newspapers, the television, etc., they start to go down in their audience levels and their influence, and the internet starts to dominate. What you're waiting for is that point, we're now past it, where the internet dominates communication and has so infiltrated human society technologically via everything being connected to the internet that there's no turning back. Gotcha. Okay. Now we'll start censoring. Okay? We don't like censorship. Oh, really? How else are you going to communicate apart from with us?
Late last month, the Supreme Court declined a request from a group of social media users and 2 states to limit the Biden administration's efforts to urge social media companies to remove content deemed as misinformation. The court ruled that the users and the states, Louisiana and Missouri, lacked the legal standing to pursue an injunction against the Biden administration for its interactions with the social media platforms. The users had claimed that their freedom of speech was unconstitutionally infringed upon when their posts were removed or suppressed following pressure from administration officials. The Supreme Court's decision overturns a lower court ruling that had restricted the White House and administration officials' interactions with social media platforms, a limitation the Justice Department contended was excessive. The injunction from the lower court had been temporarily suspended while the Supreme Court reviewed the case. Since the ruling was announced, many have expressed concern about the dangerous precedent the Apex Court has set and what it would mean for free speech going forward. This is why Icke and other so-called conspiracy theorists advocate the importance of questioning the narrative and using platforms that don't seek to take away this important right from us all. If you found this message compelling, please share your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and turn on post notifications for more thought-provoking content. Thank you for watching.